Hello and welcome into another edition of Inside Badger Hoops. As always, Ira Bowman, JC Rockhill with you here today. JC, it's been a phenomenal year for the men's basketball team. We've also got an exciting game to talk about that the women completed and the historic comeback that they've had throughout this conference season. So we've got a pretty loaded show here today.
Yep, no doubt. And that's why I got the sunglasses on. You know, it's awesome being a Badger fan right now.
The Badgers men's basketball team under head coach Andrew May finished 31-1 after winning the Region 18 tournament championship. The Badgers went, obviously you have to go 2-0, so the Badgers won both games this weekend against Salt Lake Community College in an 87-84 game and then a 91-64 beatdown of College of Southern Idaho. And the Badgers finished 15-0 in conference play, allowing them to host the tournament, as we have talked about, 12-0 at home, 12-0 on the road, 14-0 on the road, and then 7-1 on the neutral. But, JC, this team finished 31-1 after the Region 18 championship, 24-game winning streak. Both that win total and that winning streak total are program records in a Snow College men's basketball program that has been around for over 100 years.
Yeah, and it's just super, super impressive. Obviously, that 24-game winning streak, just the fact that they've really just been doing the same things constantly, never really giving up or changing anything up too much because of the amount of depth that they have. They have a ton of confidence going into each and every game, and that's something that you really want to go into the rest of the season.
Yep, right now the Badgers are top 5 in the 3 statistical shooting categories. Right now, 4th in field goal percentage in the country, 5th in three-point percentage in the country, and 1st in free throw percentage. And they've been 1st in free throw percentage for a while.
Yep.
Right now at 77.5. The three-point percentage has jumped up to 39.2 for 5th, and 4th in field goal at 51.9. Also, JC, I just found out right before the show today that 91.8 points per game that the Badgers are averaging right now is the most a Snow College men's basketball team has ever averaged in a season before.
Yeah, and it's just, again, really impressive. It goes back to what these players have done so much. Like, they really work on their shooting form. I think it's really worked in their advantage. Coach Andrew May has instilled a very disciplined offense that really gets those points going, and it's just been phenomenal to watch.
Let's jump in to the final buzzer from these 2 games over the weekend, JC. The Region 18 tournament was here in Ephraim. Badgers won 87-84 against Salt Lake Community College. It wasn't really that close. Ethan Copeland for the Bruins hit a 3 from the half court at the end of the buzzer. So it was really a 6-point game with about 1 second left before Copeland put in that 3. So the final score, 87-84. Dominant first half from the Badgers. 40-25 was the halftime score. But it was a tough second half and a good comeback from the Bruins, but it was just a little bit too much. The Badgers were just a little bit too much for the Bruins to overcome in that second half.
Yeah, and this situation where you do make that comeback, and we have to mention, of course, Xavier Edmonds, you already mentioned him. He had 28 of his 34 total points in that second half, which alone is very, very impressive. But at the end of the day, I think the Badgers just had too much of an edge and too much of a strong finish and too much resiliency and stamina to really get this win.
The good news for the Badgers in that one is they didn't have to let it go into overtime in order to come out with the win. The last time the Bruins played here in Ephraim, the Badgers had to go into overtime in order to defeat Salt Lake, but they finish it in regulation, 87-84. Isaac Finlinson had 23 points and 11 rebounds for a double-double in that one. It was a very physical game from him. He was very aggressive going to the basket in this game, and probably one of the most aggressive games I've seen him play in terms of just driving to the hoop and not settling for threes.
Yeah, definitely. And we've also seen him a lot with the kickback shoots as well. I don't think he was really turning to that too much. I think he wanted to establish the physical nature of the game that he wanted to have, and he really wanted to get easy buckets in terms of layups and finishing layups. Obviously, the Bruins, they didn't make it all that easy for him, but I think in terms of this, he was just extremely physical, extremely tough as well, both on offense and on defense, and it was just a really, really great performance.
Mark Brown Jr. also had 20 points in that game against the Bruins. Along with those 20 points, he had 5 rebounds and 6 assists. Those were just 2 of the 5 men's players that finished in double-figure scoring, and that's something that the Badgers have done consistently all season. And then following that, on Saturday afternoon, the Badgers took on CSI for the 4th time this season. And JC, just like the last 2 times, College of Southern Idaho came to Ephraim, it was not a close game.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, the Badgers, they displayed an incredible defensive effort really throughout the entire game, really did not let up on offense either, and they played very good in the transition going both ways. Like defense, they were very quick to get in their set defense and go against a very strong CSI offensive team. And CSI, I mean, it just shows the numbers were just abysmal. 35.6 from the field, 25 from the three-point range, and they were also out-rebounded 40-28. So just an incredible defensive effort from the Badgers.
Yep, and the Badgers had an excellent game offensively. They finished the game 91-64. The Badgers shot very well in this game. Isaac Finlinson again played very well. He had 22 points, 9 of 11 from the field, 8 rebounds and 2 assists. Another player for the Badgers that played very efficiently again was Mark Brown Jr. Also had 20 points in this one, this time with 12 assists for a 20-point, 12-assist double-double, and also finished shooting a very efficient 7 of 10 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3. Mark Brown Jr. was a total of 7 for 8 behind the three-point line in this tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, these are just the numbers that you really want out of a point guard. Like, obviously, you want the assists and you want the points, but the most impressive thing to me is his rebounding numbers. You don't expect those kind of rebounding numbers from a point guard, especially when Mark Brown Jr. is the shorter guy on the court. You don't expect these kind of rebounding numbers, but overall, in terms of his points and shooting, he just picked his shots very well, really timed his drives very well, and dished the ball out very well. It was just an overall incredible performance, and the fact that he's really shown why he is, in my opinion, the best point guard in this conference.
Yep, Mark Brown Jr., you mentioned best point guard in the conference, won the Region 18 tournament MVP, and deservedly so. 2 20-point games, one of them a 20-point, 12-assist double-double, had 5 rebounds in each of those games. Mark Brown Jr. scored a combined 40 points in the 2 games, 10 rebounds, 18 assists, shot 13 of 20 from the field, and then a 7 of 8 from the three-point line and 7 of 10 from the free throw line. 2 other players for the Badgers that were honored with tournament accolades were Isaac Garrett and Isaac Finlinson, both of them making the Region 18 tournament team for the Scenic West Athletic Conference. Isaac Finlinson finished with 45 points, 19 rebounds, and 2 assists on 17 of 25 shooting from the field in the tournament over the 2 games. An unfortunate 1 of 6 from 3, a very uncharacteristic three-point shooting performance from Finlinson, but he still played very well offensively, and I mentioned he was very aggressive getting to the basket. That's why he was able to score those 45 points. And then Isaac Garrett, 22 points, 13 assists, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 9 of 17 from the field for the Badgers in the tournament over those 2 games.
Yeah, and I think the special thing about Isaac Garrett in terms of that tournament was the fact that he was really all over the court in a majority of those games. Like, he was really had the brightest moments on defense, in my opinion, and that's why he made this sort of all-team, is because he was very locked down on defense, especially in the CSI game. He was very dynamic, getting after the boards and everything. Just an all-around great performance over that tournament.
Yep, and he was in foul trouble in the Salt Lake Community College game, I believe. He only played, it was in the CSI game. Mm-hmm. He only played 16 minutes in that game in foul trouble, so not a lot there for him in terms of minutes, but still a lot in terms of production.
Yeah, and set the tone on defense, like I mentioned.
From Isaac Garrett. Now, before we move on to the women, I want to talk about something else real quick here with the men's team. Coach May won Coach of the Year in the Scenic West Athletic Conference with a perfect 15-0 regular season in the conference. That is the first time Snow College has ever gone undefeated through conference play in the Scenic West Athletic Conference. The second time the program has done it in conference play. And JC, it's been a phenomenal year for Coach May, and he has just led this team to break record after record this season.
Yeah, no doubt, and there's no doubt in my mind this is well-deserved, and he is a very fun coach to play for. You can just see the players out there when they're on the court, and after the games, they just love playing for Coach Andrew May. They are a very disciplined team as well, and we got to credit Andrew May for instilling that disciplined sort of mentality, and this is just a really well-deserved award. Congratulations to Andrew May.
Yep, a big-time congratulations to Coach Andrew May. Yesterday, March 10th, I believe that was yesterday, Monday, March 10th.
Yes, yeah, it was.
Yeah. The Scenic West Athletic Conference all region teams were announced, and along with the player of the year. So JC, Isaac Finlinson, one player of the year, averaging 19.1 points per game, 6.6 rebounds. And on the first team for the Badgers was Isaac Garrett, winning second team award for Scenic West Athletic Conference. Second team was Mark Brown Jr. and Chance Trujillo.
Yeah, and obviously the SWAC Player of the Year, that's a huge award, and Isaac Finlinson is the perfect guy for it, in my opinion. Like, obviously, you throw in the numbers he put in over that tournament, it's very well deserved, but the fact that he's been so consistently good throughout the entire season, it's a really well-earned award as well. I mean, the fact that he's not just a straight three-point shooter like we saw over the tournament, he's very good at adjusting to what the defenses have shown him in the past, and is very good on his drives.
Yep. So to round out that first team for the tournament, or for the all-region teams, the first team was North Idaho guard Vaughn Weems, Salt Lake forward Xavier Edmonds, definitely both deserving those two.
Definitely.
And then Kyrie Dunn for CSI, Isaac Garrett, like I mentioned, for the Badgers, and Marco Doyle for CSI, and Dang Dew. So there's 6 players on the first team. There's 7 players on the second team. 2 Badgers on the second team got honored, Mark Brown Jr. and Chance Trujillo, as I mentioned. Ethan Copeland for Salt Lake, Tyler Christensen for Colorado Northwestern, and then Ike Palmer for Utah State Eastern, and Jackson Hayden for Utah State Eastern were all honored on that all-region second team.
Yeah, and these are all really well-deserved. We're being honest, they had incredible seasons, each individual player, and I'm really impressed with how they have played throughout this conference. They've really made it competitive in each and every game. Each player has had incredible moments and have had really consistent play.
Yeah. And I just want to mention that Isaac Finlinson does not get honored on the all-region first team because he won Player of the Year. So that's the one Player of the Year, and then the 6 players that make the all-region first team. Now, to talk about the women's team, JC, as we move on here in our show, they started conference play 1-5, and then they're entering their last 3 games of the season again, home, all 3 of them on home.
Yep.
Home against North Idaho, or home against CSI, and then home against North Idaho, and then a lone home game on a Wednesday against Salt Lake Community College. Going into that, the Badgers would need to win all 3, and they could have hosted the Region 18 tournament had they won all 3 after starting 1-5. That didn't pan out, kind of like we talked about on last week's show. They go 1-1 against CSI North Idaho, gaining a tiebreaker over North Idaho, and then enter Wednesday on March 5th. Salt Lake Community College comes into town. The Badgers were 1-1 at this point in time against Salt Lake. Both of those games taking place in Taylorsville at the Bruins facility. The Badgers lost the first one brutally.
Right.
Won the second one 64-60, and Salt Lake is coming in with the chance to still make the tournament even if they lose. But for the Badgers, it was do or die. If they win, they were the 2 seed in the tournament because they held a tiebreaker over North Idaho. If they lost, they would have fallen out of the tournament completely because they did not hold the tiebreaker over Utah State Eastern.
Yeah, and when I was watching that game live and everything, it was just a really consistent game in terms of a lot of the moments on offense. They did have a lot of hiccups on that one. Obviously, they struggled with the turnovers, which has been the problem in the past, but their defense was just so locked down throughout the entire game, and it was just to really show their do-or-die mentality. And they really played the game not so much with that mentality. I think they just went into it and did what they did, didn't really feel the pressure of it whatsoever, and just went out there and played like it was just any other game.
The Lady Badgers finished the season after starting 1-5 in conference play, 9-6. They won 8 of their last 9 games. It was a phenomenal season to watch. In the later half, after Ayanna Bay came back from her injury, the Badgers finished 20-10 overall in the regular season, 9-6 in conference play, as I mentioned, 8-5 at home, 8-4 on the road. CSI finished in first place of the conference standings at 11-4, so 2 games ahead of the Badgers. And then Snow finished with the same record as North Idaho, but because the Badgers held the tiebreaker, they get the 2 seed and will get to play North Idaho in the first round of the Region 18 tournament in Twin Falls on Thursday. And then Salt Lake finished with an 8-7 record, and so did Utah State Eastern. But because the Bruins held the tiebreaker over the Eagles, the Bruins make the tournament at that 4 seed. So it will be CSI and Salt Lake against each other in Twin Falls for the first round of the Region 18 women's tournament this week.
Yeah, and this is no doubt a very exciting tournament. I'm very excited, especially for the Badgers, considering that they have so much momentum, I think, going into this tournament, coming off of a huge win against Salt Lake, a team that they've struggled with, like we mentioned. I think that they have the momentum in this, and they have all the talent and everything. They have all the IQs. They just have to make them work in this one.
So the Badgers won against Salt Lake on March 5th, 54-52. It was a phenomenal game. You talked about the defense.
Yep.
The Badgers held Salt Lake scoreless for 6+ minutes in the fourth quarter. It was phenomenal to watch. And boy, Kiriana Hawaiki-Rangi, the sophomore wing guard forward for Coach Zoo, had a phenomenal game. The only Badger in double digits, 15 points. It was just a phenomenal performance. And then comes off a screen off the around the sideline and then down to the baseline and hits a floater, game winner with 1.1 seconds on the clock. The buzzer did go off. The refs put 1.1 back on the clock.
Yep.
But JC, before this, Badgers held a 3-point lead after Malia Elliott hit 2 free throws to make it a 52-49 game. And then De Silva for Salt Lake hits a beautiful corner 3 to tie it up at 52 with, I believe, there was about 10-ish seconds on the clock.
Somewhere around there.
7-ish seconds on the clock. Hawaiki-Rangi gets a floater at the buzzer. The refs put time back on the clock. And then Lily Sugatu-Raga, I definitely have to give credit here. She comes up with a huge steal on a lob post-entry pass on the inbounds pass to seal the game.
Yep. As great as team sequences as they were, both on offense, when we talked about that game winner, the play was ran perfectly, a phenomenal pass, but obviously I got to give credit to Hawaiki-Rangi at the end of the day because of the focus and the really going through the contact and going up against a contested one with that floater. It was a phenomenal release and everything like that. And Sugatu-Raga coming up with huge communication on defense, knowing where the ball was going to come. Great work turning around and getting that steal.
Yep, it was beautiful. Textbook defense on that post-entry pass from Lily Sugatu-Raga, tipping it away. The ball went out of bounds. Referees called game, said the clock ran out before the ball touched out of bounds. And with that, the Badgers get the 2 seed after not making the conference tournament last year.
Yeah, and again, like the Badgers have so much momentum going into this tournament. I'm really confident in them going into this tournament as well. Like, even though they're going to have to travel a bit of a ways, I'm still really confident with them going into this tournament.
The Badgers had a 17-point third quarter in this game, and that was their biggest offensive quarter in this game. It really, really set a precedent there in the fourth quarter. The Badgers and the Bruins both scored 9 points in the fourth quarter, but with that Badgers offensive explosion in the third, it was able to help them get over the hump.
Yeah, really give them the edge in that one.
It did. So Hawaiki-Rangi, as we mentioned, game winner, Sugatu-Raga, game-sealing steal, and that's why Hawaiki-Rangi is our Badger Queen of the Court this week. 15 points, as I mentioned, 5 of 8 from the field, made 3 of her 4 3-point attempts, and that was 3 of the 4 total made threes from the Badgers in this ball game. We've talked about on this show how they don't shoot a lot of threes and they don't make a lot of threes, so they're low volume, low percentage, or low volume making and low volume taking 3-point shooting team. Hawaiki-Rangi has been a good 3-point shooter all year. 2 of 2 from the free throw line, also finished with 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal.
Yeah, and I mean, in this game with Hawaiki-Rangi, it was just a true offensive explosion. Great shot selection, you know, obviously with those 3 threes, just beyond efficient. Great quick release, even under the pressure that Salt Lake did sort of bring. She had a very quick release and great confidence going up with those 3-point shots, and it was just really fun to watch her throughout the game. And defensively, she didn't have the biggest presence in terms of takeaways and sort of tip passes, but I think she just did such a good job of taking away passing lanes that Salt Lake didn't even bother looking in that direction.
Well, and that's what she does best, is take away those passing lanes. Whether she comes up with the steal or not, her best defensive attribute is taking away passing lanes and making it hard for ball handlers to get something set easily on offense.
Exactly.
Now, with that, we're going to fast forward to Thursday night, where the Lady Badgers will take on North Idaho College. JC, the Badgers 2-1 against the Cardinals this season, and the only loss that they had was a absolute offensive explosion from Galindo when she had 40 points here at the Horn Activity Center. The Badgers were able to win the other 2 games. In the second one, they held Galindo into low scoring, and then in the third matchup, Galindo did not even play here at the Horn Activity Center, and the Badgers were able to come out with a win in that one. This is the Region 18 tournament semifinal on March 13th. This game will be played at 5 p.m. in Twin Falls at the College of Southern Idaho. JC, this is just a really, really exciting game. I think North Idaho and the Badgers have been a very fun matchup to watch this season.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the fact that the Badgers had so many struggles against this team at the Horn Activity Center, and now they come away with the 2-1 record against them. Again, they have so much momentum going into this game, and as I mentioned, they got to make the pieces click on this one, and this is how you do it. If Galindo does plays, you cannot allow her to go off, especially for 40 points like we talked about. I'm definitely wanting 2 players in double-digit scoring. I'm really expecting Ayanna Bay to have a lot of offensive presence in this game, and I'm also expecting Malia Elliott to really explode for another big game. And then defensive rebound, you have to limit North Idaho to at least 1 shot, a possession, and get second chance points as well. And you also have to limit your own turnovers and don't settle for threes, especially when they're contested, as we did see Salt Lake really guard the perimeter well. I think the Badgers really have to work on identifying when they're going to have the best open shot at the three-point line.
And that's kind of what they do really well in terms of three-point shooting, is they know when to take the open ones and when not to take the contested ones. And I feel like that's part of the reason why the Lady Badgers are such a low-volume three-point shooting team.
Mm-hmm.
The unfortunate part is that they don't make very many.
Yes, it has been a little frustrating, in all honesty, to watch them, miss the threes like they have. But I do feel really confident with them going into this one, especially with the efficiency that they showed from the three-point line in the last game. So I'm really excited for them from the three-point line in this one.
It's going to be really, really fun to watch. I cannot wait for that. Lady Badgers, 5 p.m. at Twin Falls at the College of Southern Idaho against North Idaho Cardinals in the semifinal of the Region 18 tournament. They have a chance to do what the men did and win the tournament if they win that one, and then play the winner of the CSI and Salt Lake Community College semifinal. Now, moving on to the men's team. Yes, there is still one more game before the national tournament. The Snow College men's basketball team will host Eastern Arizona in the West District Championship game. Eastern Arizona defeated Arizona Western on Saturday, just a few hours after the Badgers vanquished CSI in the Region 18 tournament. So it's the Region 18 champion versus the Region 1 champion. Snow College versus Eastern Arizona. It will be played at the Horn Activity Center, as the Badgers are the higher ranked team. Badgers, #1 team in the country in the final AP poll that came out on March 3rd. Eastern Arizona, number 17 in that AP poll. And JC, the Badgers already played Eastern Arizona this year. It was in a 5-game road trip where the Badgers played 5 different Arizona teams, all before coming back here. So it was 5 straight road games in Arizona, and the Badgers beat Eastern Arizona by 19 points in that one.
Right. And I'll say this first and foremost about Eastern Arizona. I'm really shocked that they're not ranked a little bit higher than they are right now at 17, where they're ranked now. I'm really shocked that they're not ranked a lot higher, because if I remember right, they're 27-3 overall on the season.
I believe so.
Which is obviously a really great record, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing for the Badgers is don't look at the ranking first, realize and attack what happened in the last game and attack what things that worked for Eastern Arizona in the last game, because they did put up 60 points against the Badgers, and there were a lot of moments where the Gila Monsters really could have stolen a lot of momentum, but the Badgers, I think, really have the edge in this one going into it, because in the last game you had both Isaac Garrett and Isaac Finlayson in the double-double. Garrett had 22 points, 11 rebounds, Finlayson 11 points and 10 rebounds, and the defense, again, for the Badgers has just been so good all year, because in the last game against Eastern Arizona, only one player had over double-digit points, and that was Caraway. He had 24 points, and no one else on the Gila Monsters had over 9 points.
Yeah. So the Badgers did an excellent job defending everybody but Caraway. But
Yep.
I mean, it's hard for one player to beat an entire team.
Exactly. Yep.
You mentioned the Eastern Arizona record. They are 29-3 overall, 16-2 in conference play for them down there in Region 1. They're on a 14-game winning streak, and they're 10-2 on the road. The Badgers are 12-0 at home, so 10-2, 12-0, as the Badgers look to defend home court one last time. If the Badgers were able to win this one, they will most definitely be guaranteed the 1 seed in the national tournament, as the Badgers are ranked number 1 with a 31-1 ranking. However, if the Badgers lose, they should still easily be able to get an at-large bid to the tournament. They've been the number 1 team in the country since December 16th when that poll released. So it would be almost impossible for the Badgers not to make the tournament.
Right.
But if the Badgers are able to get this win and automatic bid in the West District Championship, they should make the tournament and be the 1 seed.
Yeah, and it would be very, very well deserved. And you mentioned how Eastern Arizona is on that 14-game winning streak. I didn't talk about it too much, but they do have a lot of momentum going into this game. So the Badgers in this one, they have to be very, very disciplined going against a very strong Gila Monster team.
Eastern Arizona played Arizona Western in the final of the Region 1 tournament. Caraway had 15 points in that one. The final score was a 66-63 ball game, and when I was watching this, Eastern Arizona had a double-digit lead for most of the second half. Arizona Western was able to make it close there late. The Gila Monsters pulled it out over the Matadors, and they will be here in Ephraim on Saturday. Tip-off will be at 7 p.m. at the Horn Activities Center for the last home game of the season. JC, what are going to be some keys for the Badgers to be able to come out with the win on March 15th?
Well, the first key I have for the Badgers is stay very intense and play high defense as well. And that means you have to have really great communication, and you have to know where everybody is at on offense. If you're on the defensive end, you got to know where guys like Caraway are going to be at. My second key for them is dominate the paint on both ends. That means both paint defense and paint offense. Don't settle for contested threes, and limit turnovers to single digits.
Yep, the Badgers had double-digit turnovers in both of the Region 18 tournament games. Coach May outwardly expressed that he wasn't too happy about that, but they were able to come out with wins in those games. However, it's much easier to win when you have single-digit turnovers.
Yep, definitely.
So the West District Championship game will be at the Horn Activities Center at 7 p.m. on March 15th. That's this Saturday. The Badgers play the Eastern Arizona Gila Monsters for an automatic bid to the NJCAA National Tournament. Should the Badgers win, they will be the number 1 overall seed in that tournament. And for the women, they will play at CSI on Thursday against North Idaho in the Region 18 semifinal tournament game. They had a phenomenal season after a rough start, so shout out to Coach Zew's team and the resiliency that they've showed this season, and shout out to all the Badgers that made the conference tournament teams and all region teams this season. Isaac Finlinson with Player of the Year, Mark Brent Jr. with Region 18 tournament MVP, and Coach May with the Scenic West Athletic Conference Player of the Year.
Yep.
Thank you very much for watching Inside Badger Hoops here from our studio at Snow TV. Have a great evening, everyone, night, or whatever it is.